So I want to say thanks to everyone for coming today. And I see a lot of new faces, which is awesome. There's lots of old faces from friends that I've seen for many years, so that's awesome too. Our village is getting bigger. I want to start today with a story that was in the newspaper last week, because it kind of anchors the importance of what we're doing, and then I want to talk about the change that can happen. There was an article in the Financial Post last week. The lady's name was Zrika Buzanek, and she owned her house free and clear in 2009. And the crooks somehow figured out that she owned her house free and clear. And so what they did is they went in and they tricked a bank and a lawyer into having them believe that they were that person. So they put a $600,000 mortgage on her house in 2009, and it's 2017, and she's been fighting with lawyers and the bank and the system trying to get this mortgage off her house. It's 2017, 8 years, she's still fighting. It's almost resolved. You can check in the Financial Post last week if you're interested. But she's not going to get her time back, and she's certainly not going to get any recovery from all the stress that it's caused her. And this all happened because all that the crooks needed to do was know her information and present a credible-looking document that can't be checked against the issuer to trick a lawyer, right? And so we're asking a lawyer who works here in BC to know what a valid Regina or New Brunswick or Ontario driver's license looks like to do this identity registration. And this is kind of what the problem is. The lawyer doesn't have the tools or the systems to allow him to verify this person in front of him is the person that is on that document. That's the problem. And so how are we going to shut this down? It gets to a strong identity problem. We need to have strong digital identity. What is strong digital identity? Strong digital identity is when we have a plurality of strong identity providers in the network. More importantly, that the data that they write, that they issue under your name, can't be altered after it was written by them. So it's trustworthy. It can't be changed like it was in this example I just gave. And the third most important thing in getting strong digital identity right is making sure only the person it belongs to is the one that can present it. That's the step that's often missed, and that's what failed in Ms. Buzanek's case. So today's theme, what we want to talk about, is showing how we can make strong digital identity work right across the economy. It's about showing up at the places today where proving your identity can be a pain, and you have to give up a lot of personal information, and it often requires that you go for a counter visit. So these are all places where we think we can make digital identity better. And so when you have reliable and trustworthy digital ID, what can you do is the question, and so that's what we want to show you today. As you watch these demonstrations of working code, I want you to keep this in mind. This is a story about Canada. It's not a story about SecureKey. It's not us. This is Canada, the community, coming together to make all of this happen. It's a story about making your life easier as a consumer. It's a story about your bank and your telco and your government standing behind you when you need to prove your digital identity in a strong way. It's about those destination services that you go to where you want something and them doing the work that's required to join the network. And it's about all of the partners who are working to make digital identity work and doing service delivery transformation in a way that's going to take all this pain that's currently in the system away and solve this problem that Ms. Buzanek had. So it takes a village to make digital identity work. That's the truth. And so everybody here is welcome in this community to make digital identity work better for Canada. That's what DIAC is about. That's what IdentityNORTH is about. And in our small way, we're trying to make that happen too. So each of the stories you're going to hear today adheres to privacy by design. That's really, really important. So no honeypots of data, no surveillance. We want to make sure that the data is being used as for designated service for specified duration and specified purpose. And the last IdentityNORTH, when we were all together, we showed you how a consumer could very quickly create their own digital ID in a very, very short period of time, 2-3 minutes. So today, it's more about showing what you can do once you have this digital identity. And so, the service is all about allowing you to connect the meaningful services in your life, like bringing your bank together with your government-issued ID, together with your telco, and creating a strong credential that you can use for accessing services. So I'm going to show you, our partners are going to show you 6 ways in which we can understand how digital identity works across the economy. So first up, I want to bring up Steve Southen from Discovery Loft. Discovery Loft wants to give you, the consumer, back the power when you want to go get a car loan to control what information you actually share, and more importantly, give you power about what financing deal you choose to get the car you want. Steve, welcome Steve to the stage, please, and he's going to show you how this all works. Steve.
I too have notes. No, it's really, really, really a pleasure to be here. It's really a pleasure to be representing automotive. and being here. That's, to me, a sign of actually everything that you guys have been doing the last couple of years. That's actually why I'm here, because it's actually, you hit me. You rooted me about a year ago. I was at a big data conference of all things. And Anne really just took over. She was actually just part of a panel. She wrote a whole speech. It was about 20 minutes. I think the panel had 30 minutes. And she just took over, and actually, for the first time, I heard about privacy by design. And coming from automotive, and especially my background, which was deep automotive, but then moved to MarTech, and then our thirst for data. We wanted to know everything, and we were pooling data and so it was the first time it really came to light of, wow, there's a much better way we could be doing things. And then now we've launched Discovery Loft, and we work very collaboratively with our clients, and we work right inside their innovation teams, and then we focus primarily on exactly this. It's how do we make those omni-channel experiences more enabling for the customer, allow them to move forward, which ultimately at the end does benefit the industry. So one of the very simple use cases that you wouldn't really think about how your digital identity can really make a profound difference is actually in simple thing like getting pre-qualified for a car loan. It shocks me that as a Canadian, it's actually not an easy thing to do. You can do it, but it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is there's a disconnect. The finance for automotive is all centralized. So when you go to get a car loan, and your logical first thing you want to do is, do I qualify, right? I'm looking at these vehicles, they're coming up 30, 40, 50,000. What's my rate? What's my payments? And that's, especially on a pre-owned, that's very personal. Like each individual is going to have a different rate. You're going to have a different term. And you really don't know that information until you actually go and get pre-qualified. We as Canadians, we're not getting pre-qualified because of this centralization forces us to go back to the dealer. 84% of Canadians know which vehicle they want to purchase before they ever make their first visit to the dealer. So how are we getting pre-qualified, right? So we're going to show you a very simple way to actually go about doing that. So here we are on your typical site that you would go and try and find your vehicle. I'm trying to find something here, and this Murano seems to work for me quite nicely. I see here we're using for a beta name, Verified Me, that will help me to get instantly approved for this vehicle. I enter my cell phone number here. See, I just received a text message on my phone. This link connects me to my Verified Me app. I can see the Verified Me app's asking for some information from my bank and credit report. I can review exactly what information they're pulling. I hit submit. Now what it's doing is in the background, it's running me up against the bank's criteria. You see they need a little more information. My employer and my income. We're trying to keep this as true to today as possible, but as far as income verification, that's going to be available very soon. And voila, I now know I have an option of a few banks here. I could pick my rates, and I can secure this loan approval. When I do select this loan approval, I'll be given an approval ID token. I hold that, and when I decide I'm ready to buy that car, I give that token to the dealer. This information feeds back into their system they're already using, and I can move forward. But I've at least been able to pre-qualify without becoming a lead, right? I'm not exposing my intention to buy, but I'm being empowered with all the information I need to make a smarter vehicle purchase decision.
Just your closing slide here.
Yes, right. So what happened there, right? So within a minute, a consumer was able to be pre-qualified for the loan. They were given the choice of what preferred lender. That's something they currently do not have. They can avoid completing these long credit applications and lengthy visits to a dealership. They're given that unique ID, which holds their intention to purchase and all their financial information until they are ready to purchase, and then that same file is pushed through the existing system they now have. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve.
You betcha.
What I love about that story is it allows you as a consumer to kind of break out of the swim lane that the car dealers put you into and gives you power back. You can get away from the condescending look you might get from the car dealer says, you make what, right? And also you give better choice about how you want to get your car paid for. So I love that storyline. Often what we see in the service delivery challenge actually is we have another villain that appears a lot, which is the paper monster. We need to actually have paper to complete this transaction. And while paper often gets presented the villain, the real villain is ink. We need ink on paper to prove who did this transaction. So the real villain in the service delivery story is the ink. And so Patrick DeLay is going to come and talk about how we can do digital signatures online and get rid of the ink monster. Patrick.
Thank you. This works?
Good. So Notarius, we're removing the wet ink from the paper. We actually want to remove the entire paper trail. For the past roughly 20 years, we've been enabling every year millions of document transactions to be legally reliable without any paper. You can think about land registry in Quebec. You can think about just about every bridge, roads being built in Canada that the initial drawing was digitally signed. And all this is coming to the enterprise. This is coming to the government. Because for 20 years, we've been enabling digital transformation, but an only tiny bit. The tiny bit is getting an electronic document signed and making sure it's legally reliable. But everybody, large, small, private, public, everybody hits the same problem. The digital transformation roadblock. Because if you really want to capture 100% of the investment you're making in your digital transformation program, you know the PDF you print at the very end and you get signed and then you scan and you bring it back? Well, that doesn't help capturing benefits. Everybody has an issue getting trusted identities on an electronic document. So today, we're here to show you one simple thing. There's no more roadblock. We have an e-signature platform called Consigno Cloud. If you take that platform, which produces legally reliable document, and you bind it with verified.me, truly, and hopefully you'll see that in a few minutes, you get a match made in heaven. Now, let's use a very, very complex use case, probably one of the most complex use cases, land registry. It is complex because Andre was talking about somebody that forged an identity and put a loans and a mortgage on a house. Land registry is complex because you've got a whole bunch of signers, buyers, sellers, lawyers. Land registry will make their own verification at the end. So we'll just use one simple case of the land registry. I'm not talking about the bank loans that you will need to sign the contract, just focusing on land registry itself. Picture this, you're a lawyer. You have your client is buying a house. May have happened before. You need to collect up to 6 signatures. And you need to do that in a specific way. Sellers, ex-spouses, they don't talk to each other, different cities. Then in most jurisdictions, your lawyer will need to sign it. Well, the seller's lawyer will need to sign it first, then the buyers, then you need to submit it to the land registry and hope for the best. It's actually fairly easy to do. You define the signers, you send it for signature. You wait about 10 minutes because everybody's really eager to sell that house. And if you've done your homework right, it would get transmitted automatically to the land registry. So far, so good. Now, if Verify.me was there today, this would be in production because the system does that today. But today, we'll show you something simpler because we don't have time to collect 6 signatures. Very simple document, 2 signatures that will do it remotely, no paper involved. And the only thing we do is we send for signature. We define the document, send for signatures, client signs on their iPhone, and you get the document back and you process it as you would in your process. Patrick and Justin. I'm Patrick. I'm a mobile guy. This is my life, right? I will read the contracts on this. I will actually validate my identity on this. Everything I do is on my mobile. We have Justin. Justin, well, for a long document, he will read it on his desktop, but actually, Justin likes to read stuff on his desktop. So on the demo, you'll see Justin is desktop guy, and I'm the mobile guy. Let's go. Oh, by the way, once everybody is signed, what do you get in the end? You get something pretty cool. You get a document that has been signed with 2 identities that have been validated by banks. That's a game changer. That's really, really cool. And this is what it will look like. Does it start magically? Yes, it does. All right. So you define the document. There's a nice web interface, but the truth is, for any volume transaction, everybody will have a system that will fill all this with an API. You define the signers, you define the document. On the right, you'll see Patrick's iPhone. On the left, you'll see Justin's iPhone. This was recorded last Friday. I would have loved to do a live demo. I was told, well, there could be glitches, you know how it works, internet access. So let's go. Let's have a document that's defined, and now I need Patrick to sign. This is me. Just got new document. I did not speed things up. This is really the speed that it would be. I read it. Yeah, I'm eager to sign that document. I click on it. I see I could zoom. I could do whatever I want. Right now, I want to sign with passion. All right. Terms and conditions. First time I use the platform. All right, go. There's a mobile link here because I don't need to scan the QR code. I'm mobile. So I'll click the mobile link, brings me to the app, because in all cases, I authentify with my verify.me app. Now it's important. I'm going to submit. I'm going to provide consent that the information be transferred to Consigno Cloud, and it's going to be digitally signed in document at its exact time. I'm good. I'm happy. I'll be happy in about 3 seconds. This is so cool. One guy just signed. Let's go and see what Justin will do now. Come on, Justin, open up. Yes. So Justin, that's his old iPhone 5. It does work on old iPhones, I checked. But he's a desktop guy. This is for him. He clicks on the link, opens on his desktop. And like you've seen on the previous demo, well, this is my special effect of the year. You will actually see, clicking this, you'll see the video of the barcode being scanned. Yep. That's roughly what somebody would do. Processing. Takes a few seconds. Do I agree? Yes. I press. Everybody's happy. I've got a document that has been signed with identities validated by banks. I think that can solve a few use cases you guys have. So this took roughly 3 minutes with 2 people really motivated to sign. What we see in general is 30 minutes for 2 signers. That's it. So you've got document, you don't wait 3 days, you don't send in an envelope. In about 30 minutes, you get something signed. And now you get something signed with ID validated by banks. Pretty cool. And how do I get to, all right, just 2 things under the hood. First one is that document, you'll probably want to verify it, right? You'll open it. Every time there's a signature, a verify.me signature, we add to the document a digital signature that is tamper-proof, can be validated in Adobe, and will validate your name as per your bank. It doesn't matter what the lawyer or whoever defined it. This is name validated by your bank. This comes from my bank. Tamper-proof, I've mentioned it. And also, there's a fantastically detailed audit trail like most e-signature platform that tells you exactly what has been done. And what's really, really cool here is you don't have to trust us. Probably a few months, few quarters after Verify.me launches, we'll bring a service where you can check this independently. You can check that Justin and Patrick really did sign on that day a document with Consigno Cloud. You will never know what the document was about. We're talking about verifying that transaction did occur. That's it. So under the hood, the integrity and the authenticity of the document is protected. So a few cool stuff we're bringing before launch. Birth date validation. You know these homonyms? While ensuring privacy by design. So there's a lot of PII. We found a nice way where you can validate birth date, but you'll never see it in any document because name, first, last, and DOB is something that you don't want to share on a contract with the whole planet. Signature delegation, that's a tough nut to crack, right? Delegating signing powers. We're working on something really cool, and we should be there before it launches. And also European identities. Yeah, over the Atlantic, they have a whole bunch, like 70 million, I think, qualified electronic signatures issued so far. So nice market. So we're supporting Verify.me. We'll be supporting those identities. And actually, we should be, in about 4 weeks, the first certificate authority outside the European Union to be recognized by the European Union. So match made in heaven, no doubt. Easy to deploy with an existing application. You don't need to rewrite everything, all your processes. I'm pretty sure digital transformation program have been going on for years. But you know the part where you say print to PDF? You remove it and you send it to our platform. Super easy to use. You saw it from a mobile, on desktop, really easy. And finally, very secure. But best of all, although you did see a video, it is real. And I'd be more than happy to do live demos. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Patrick. I love, we're going to be able to kill this ink problem that we've got. We're going to be able to make this all digital for once, and it's going to solve that use case I talked about at the beginning, is knowing who's really signing the document. And once we can do that, we can really shut down this whole identity theft thing that happens around property title. I want to go to another important use case today. This is really important for provinces in particular where you want to do online service delivery, but it's an age-related product. So, booze is one thing the provinces have been toying with. How do we do, safe booze delivery online? We really need to know the person is of age and the person ordering the information is the one they claim to be. So I want to have Eric Lemieux come up and talk about how they're going to solve this problem for a customer they're working with. Eric.
Thank you very much, Andre. So I'm Eric Lemieux. I'm the managing partner of Lovio, heading the Montreal office. I'm going to tell you first a little bit about Lovio. The reason is that's going to help you to understand why we thought about creating Control ID. So the first part is what we're doing is we are a 5-year-old company. We are fast growing. Up to 300 people now. We have 3 offices, Toronto, Montreal, and Quebec City. And there's missing one. You see Vancouver. And I have to tell you a secret. I'm going to volunteer to open the one in Vancouver. So what we're doing, in fact, is helping the companies, mainly FI and government, in their, let's say, in their innovation and also in when they do acquisition. I'm going to give you 2 examples. One of the examples is we're leading the Desjardins who bought State Farm operation in Canada. So it's a $500 million project, and we are leading this project to make the integration. So working with FI and government, we just realized then sometimes they had some trouble because they want to move more with digital, and it's hard to have a strong identity. They're not able to manage well. So we said, what can we do? They're all not like in BC, what we saw before. So what we did is we started this new application that we call Control ID. So the Control ID is based on strong authentication. That's going to incorporate Verify Me. So you already saw it from some other presentation. You will see it in my presentation too. But that's also bring a complete payment solution and a data warehouse. So Andre was giving the example of selling alcohol or wines. Let's say then we need to know where you live, your age. We want to keep some data for, to make sure we're able to handle in which part of the country maybe they're drinking more or drinking less. So we're looking at all the data and making prevention for health. So let's move forward. So the example right here is, and it's the reason why is I use another color here just to show that we are in any other site. So let's say then you're selling liquor, you're selling wine. You have to be regulated by the government. So when you're ready to buy your wine, you go a little bit like when you go to buy a ticket to a play at a theater. You're going to go through Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster will handle everything. So now, after going to the site of any other company like liquor store, they come here in Control ID. So this part in Control ID is a little bit like the Ticketmaster part. So everything is linked, like we saw in the previous demo. So you just open your Verify Me application. You can key in your phone number or just scan the barcode. In that case, you're going to see you go through your bank. You scan, and behind, there's no link. Of course, you're going to get all the information. So you're going to be able to see then the age, the residence. You will be able to get, you just saw it right now. You will be able to see everything to be able to move forward with your purchase. But you have to see now, because we're keeping information on the transaction. So if I don't know, you're too young, or you're not living in the province and we're not supposed to sell in another province, or you drinking, or you're drinking too much, you can have a personalized information, and that's coming from the application, because we know who you are. So that's Eve. We'll just get the information here. Let's move to payment. You key in other thing we included. We have all the tax remittance. So let's say then always they have many different stores. You are the government. You want to handle, the tax. You want to make sure then you get all the data. So using this platform, you're able to handle all of that, and as well as the tax remittance. So you don't have to do your tax yourself. Going through Control ID will do that too. The other thing also is you got here, because of the data behind, some message. It could be anything, depending of what you did, what you're doing, and government can also help you to, for your health or anything else, okay? We also have a database, and of course, we're handling all the privacy, so it's not necessary with your name, and all the data will be able to be used with different tools, so you can make any statistical use. So now you can deliver it to your address or just self-pick. And the other part also is we included the scan QR barcode on on the label than you got on your package. So you're able to identify yourself using the SecureKey application or Verify Me application at the end. And you just move and send your email. What you didn't see is the other part. So the other part of the presentation is what can you do as government or FI with all the statistics. So it's really, I really want you to remember it's like using Ticketmaster. Everybody are using that. You're able to make sure you have a strong, this is very important, you have a personalized purchase workflow. So are you eligible? Do you have any exclusion, any limits? And you can have any messages that you want to give to the person who's doing the purchase. The second part is we're managing all the transaction fee, all the government remittance. We also have a base, so when you use the application, you pay an amount to use the application, and you get all the statistics who can be used to follow the consumption of alcohol or whatever you need to do for the health minister or finance minister or security minister. Lastly, we included a safe delivery using also the code and the application from Verify Me. So that's our application, that's what we did.
Thank you so much. I love this use case because it's worth noting that as of next July, weed is going to be legal across the country. And so I know at least two people who care about that. The provinces all care because they've got to figure out how they're going to do online delivery of weed sales. It's an important policy topic they actually have to solve. The second is me. I want it because I think it's going to help me slow down when I talk. So okay. So I want to talk about another use case now, which is when we talk about employees. We're all employees of an organization, so we've all had that first day at work experience where we have to onboard. And so we've got these onboarding challenges. We have to provide some payroll information so they know where to send the check. And there's also employee benefits programs, like being able to, dental programs, even mental health programs and things like that. So connecting employees to these services at your organization is actually a really important use case. So Sam Bass is going to talk about how they did that. Sam.
Thank you. Thank you, Andre. Who likes to get paid? Yeah, you don't have your hands up, you're lying, I'm sure. All right. So I'm Sam Vasa. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Payment Evolution. We are one of Canada's largest payroll, payments, and benefits management companies for small businesses. We started the company about 10 years ago, and we're now north of about 18,000 businesses on our platform, adding somewhere around 300 to 400 new businesses every month. Our market is really around that small business owner, that person who needs to hire some people, pay them accurately, and make sure that the taxes are getting done correctly. So that's our market, and what we've developed is a cloud-based infrastructure that allows that owner, business operator to go ahead and ensure that their employees are paid correctly. Identity, when you think about it, is really at the core of how you hire your employees. Are you hiring the right person? Is Sam really who he is? He says he is the bank information that Sam provided the correct one, and you need to make sure that that identity continues across the entire organization. So what I wanted to do is kind of give you a scenario here. You're going to hire Catherine. Catherine is a new employee. She's just come to your organization, and she now needs to onboard into your organization. Traditionally, you're going to have to go ahead and gather a bunch of data and information from her manually, set up. In this case, we've got a new application called Paychecker that allows you to go ahead and onboard that employee. We're going to be using, instead of paper-based method, we're going to go ahead and allow this employee to do this fully digitally. They're going to use their application, the SecureKey application, to verify who they are. They're going to authenticate against their bank, share that information securely with the Paychecker application. That data and information is going to happen seamlessly. You're not going to have to gather any paper. You're not going to go ahead and have to verify this information on your own. The bank is going to provide this information directly to you as the employer. That information is going to get populated as part of the paychecker profile for an individual, and that individual will now be able to go ahead and pursue and look at all the information that is part of their employee profile. This digital onboarding that you're seeing here saves a typical business about 3 to 4 hours of onboarding time. And more importantly, it also allows you to gather the bank information of that employee. And this is where we tend to see a lot of mistakes happen. If you have the wrong digits, an employee doesn't give you the right transit number, that sort of stuff, payments can get bounced. By doing this securely and digitally, I can ensure that that employee receives their funds directly into their bank account without having to have any of the errors happen along the way, or me having to gather a void check, which most people don't actually carry anymore. So all this stuff has now happened behind the scenes and in the background, and Catherine has been fully onboarded into the Paychecker application. She can now go ahead and take a look at her electronic pay stub. Everything is now digitally provided for her, and through this same process, she's now got access to all the information in the organization as part of her employee engagement with that organization. So that's kind of the quick onboarding on this side. We're very keen to kind of see how this stuff will get rolled out. We're very keen to be supportive of the Verified Me application and where that's going to be going. Where we're looking at this is that obviously it's fast employee onboarding, but now the data sets that we're gathering are starting to become very interesting for other organizations. Now imagine that Catherine needs to go ahead and apply for a line of credit at a financial institution, and that financial institution needs to ensure or verify that they are, number one, employed, and number two, what's their income range? Is that qualify for the line of credit that they're doing? So we're looking at now becoming a participant of providing that data back to the network in a secure way that Catherine can go ahead and ensure that it's being used correctly. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. I think another important aspect of what Sam is doing is kind of cool is agency. So one of the challenges often when you look at these types of employee scenarios, you have a third party that's involved, like a benefits provider. And agency is important. It needs to be clear to the employee that the insurer, the benefits provider, is acting on behalf of the employee and not the employer. Now, for sure, this is the way it really works, but it's not always clear to the employee that this agency exists. And so making it clear to the user who they have a duty to, the insurer is actually there to serve the employee is important. Also, there's sometimes your relationship with your employer continues on after you cease to be an employee. When you get retired, as an example, sometimes if you're downsized or you leave the organization, you continue to get benefits for up to 6 months after you leave. So being able to continue to have a credential relationship with your provider your employer after you go is actually really quite important. So I want to switch cases now to another really important example, and this case is about Sun Life. Sun Life is, as you all know, provides group benefits. They also provide investment products, and they do insurance products as well. And so they have a whole field of people who are out collecting information from customers to get them into the service, and they have a whole set of logistical issues that need to be addressed. So I'd like to invite Jim Skipper to come up and talk about what they're doing. Jim.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have to ask you guys, because this is what got us to really drink the Kool-Aid. How many of you have had to take out a townhouse registration or have rented a townhouse in the last year? I can't believe it's that few, because my kids are in second year university, so they obviously decided they wanted to live in a townhouse on their second year. It is absolutely brutal how much information you have to give them. You have to give them your social insurance numbers, not just for you, but for the kids. You have to give them all your banking information. You have to give them your driver's licenses. And this is for all the other people, all the other parents of all the other kids that were going to be living with them. What's worse about that is it's all paper-based, and it's sitting in the superintendent's townhouse to be stolen. So that example you gave last week in the media can happen to every one of us. Well, the same kind of scenario exists when you're trying to take out life insurance or you're enrolling in your payment program at your particular employer that you do business with. Because there is so much information that we are required to collect because we're regulated to the nth degree. So you have to provide us virtually every piece of financial information about you in order for us to actually take on your business. Why? because it's the regulator's way of making sure that we are actually truly selling you the policy that's right for you, and that the advisor or salesman or financial advisor isn't selling you the product they're making the most commission on this week. So that can happen. If they're making the most commission this week from Uber insurance industries, then it just so happens Uber has the best policy. So that's what the regulators are all about, and that's why it is so intimidating for you, the client, the individual, when you're trying to enter into a business relationship with a financial services company. It can take up to 90 minutes to collect all of that information. And it can actually be required to take place over multiple days, because chances are you've even forgotten half of the information that somebody like Equifax actually has on file for you. So let's go through this video. You know who we are, so I didn't really read out all the information, but probably what's most important is we were actually rated by Forrester as being #1 in our mobile experience this year across all financial service organizations in Canada. So we're not a nobody when it comes to our ability to handle knowledge and information. And I already talked about the KYCs, so we can head right into the video, because that's what's probably most exciting. So here we are. Not to have a conflict of interest, we called ourselves Moon Financial. Sun, moon, got it? You know, whatever happens. So here we are going through the information, and we're saying, would you like us to collect all of this information from first principles for 90 minutes? Or would you like to use Verify Me from SecureKey? Obviously, the person decides, let's use the Verify Me application. It goes through and asks what bank you're from, so we can go out and take a look at the information. You as the client can then decide, is this all the information you're willing to share with Sun Life for the purposes of underwriting or validating who you are and your credit line that you would have available to us? You select the Verify Me application, you do all the same work you've seen in the last few demos, and bang, there it is. You've actually registered for the business that you want to have with Sun Life. That's onboarding. But there are far more useful applications that we are looking at as the ecosystem evolves. Probably the one that is most interesting is coordination of benefits. And I'm sure the government of BC that spoke earlier can relate to this as well. Or if you're from Toronto, the Toronto Transit Commission can relate to this, because they just sued Manulife. There's a lot of situations where a client has two spouses insured by different individuals, and they go to the dentist, and rather than collecting 80% of the benefit from one and 20% of the benefit from the other, they collect 80 and 80. So they're actually making an income off of going to the dentist. That's a problem for us. There are controls in place. The controls tend to be weak, and it happens a lot. It happens so much that the Toronto Transit Commission actually, this was only 3 months ago, had 170 employees that had started their own little fraud ring, where what they would actually do is a person would go to the dentist and they'd share that dentist claim amongst 7 other people, so there were 7 claims for the same dentist. And then you'd continue to echo the process. If this ecosystem evolves, we will be able to know that you are Fred, you saw dentist George, and there should only be at maximum 2 claims for that service that George rendered. 180% to one, 120% for the other. So we definitely have drank the Kool-Aid. We have lots of opportunities, both in terms of making the client experience better, but equally important in terms of reducing our unit costs and end up actually reimbursing the clients that do business with us. So we're excited.
So thanks so much. What I love about that story is it really highlights, compliance for the insurance industry is a given. They got to do it. What was hard to see, though, until you hear the story, is the complexity of managing the compliance, which is a much harder task. And so Jim did a great job of bringing the insights of what they're wrestling with when it comes to doing their service delivery challenge. I want to bring another really cool use case to light here. The internet gets all the attention. The online service delivery use case gets all the attention for the challenges it presents. And it should, because there's a real challenge there. But it's not the only place that there's a challenge when it comes to identity. One large telco reports that they get 45,000 calls a month from customers who can't remember the PIN for their account. You call in and you want to add a service to your phone, or maybe you want to get a new phone, or in some fraud scenarios, they're trying to trick the call center agent to sending out a new SIM card. 45,000 calls a month. And so none of us can credibly prove who we are on the phone. All the person on the phone needs to do is know the information, the answers to your questions, and boom, they're in. So Richard Switzer is going to come here from TWG and talk about how we can do reliable and trustworthy digital identity at the call center. Richard.
All right. Thank you, Andre. TWG is a software development company, digital consultancy, digital product studio. We have a bunch of sort of different names for what we do. Based in Toronto, we're about 110 people. We work across a wide variety of verticals, across a wide variety of technologies. We do some work with some of the big banks. We do some of the work with some of the big insurance companies. We've been talking to Sun Life and doing some interesting stuff with them as well. Right into doing IoT type projects. We're doing something interesting with MTO around HOV lane enforcement, and getting into a lot of interesting stuff around blockchain. Sam and I came up with an amazing blockchain idea just over at the lunch table there, so I'm happy to talk about that stuff all day. But SecureKey was something that really resonated with me as I started to research them, and then we had Andre come into TWG about a year ago and do a presentation to a bunch of our engineers, because I've worked for CBC for about 5 years doing digital product over there, worked at the Globe and Mail for another 5 years after that, and in both of those instances dealing with users who are registered on those sites to comment, to receive newsletters was a huge part of what I was dealing with, and storing usernames and passwords and the security around all of that was really was a huge challenge, and it was a big concern. And I really never thought that there was a credible alternative to having some sort of user registration and a login method until I saw what SecureKey was doing. And that was very exciting. And the more I've learned about it, the more I've been convinced that this is definitely something that can solve some huge problems for a lot of different companies. So a little bit about why we think this is. I have to go back and read what I wrote here a couple days ago. But security is it's very challenging. It's very hard for you to get right, and in most cases, security is not the core competency of your business. So just think about we heard Joni from DIAC earlier today talking about just the cost of maintaining usernames and passwords being upwards of a couple hundred dollars per year per user. If it's not your core competency, most smart MBAs will tell you to outsource that, get somebody else to help you do that. And I think that's another big value that SecureKey brings to this. So we're going to take a look at a use case here, and this is something that I think all of us can relate to when you call into a call center, and the IVR, the first thing the IVR asks you is to punch in your phone number, and you do that. And eventually when you get a human on the phone, the first thing the human asks you is for your phone number, and you always think, why did I just type that in? Clearly there's something not very effective with this. Or you might get an automated message from your credit card company saying there's been some weird activity on your credit card. We're really concerned about your privacy, so please call us, and you call them, and then the first thing they ask you to do is repeat your credit card number out loud in a crowded room so that we can verify who you are. That's not particularly secure either. So we'll jump into the video here. This is kind of based on a call center where we're gonna go in and we're gonna call. We sort of went with we had the Sun Life and then the Moon Life, and this one is star coverage. So going with the cosmic theme. I'm gonna phone them up, and I'm gonna get the IVR message. So helpfully put it up here on the screen. So it's gonna ask me to punch in my mobile phone number. So I go to my keypad and I punch in my mobile number. And then you can do this. This is pretty easy to set up. If you go on the Twilio blog, which provides a lot of SMS services, they've got a bit of a tutorial about how to use Django and Twilio to set up a call center that sends SMS messages. So now I've got my SMS message. I just typed in my mobile number. They sent me a text. That contains a deep link that goes into the Verified Me app, launches the app. In some of the demos, we haven't shown the person actually typing in their bank passcode, but I think that that's an important step because I have to be able to know my own bank password to verify with Verified Me. I get into the app, And then if I click on select, again, this is the information that the star coverage CSR is asking about. If I decide I'm ready to share that, I click share, I hit submit, and I'm all good to go. Now, we're going to go to the CSR screen here as well. The phone's going to slide off to the side, and you're going to see what it looks like from the call center's perspective as well. So here, I've got a blank screen at a call center. There's no callers in the queue, but once that connects, oh, Richard Switzer's in the queue, there's his client number. I click accept, and boom, there's all my information. So when the CSR rep picks up, all this information is right there on the screen in front of him. I called Sun Life, and the first thing they ask, because we have coverage, the first thing they ask is, what's your client number? And I'm like, I have no idea. So I'm like pulling out my wallet and dropping things on the floor trying to figure that out. This solves all of that stuff. And like a number of the use cases you've seen here today, they're things that are very relatable. I think they make our lives a lot easier. And I think as the more and more you start to see Verified Me used across customer service applications and touch points where we have to share our identity, it'll just become more ubiquitous, more useful, and people will actually start to kind of demand it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. So my own view is that call center doesn't get talked a lot about, but I think it's kind of a breakout use case because it's one place where we've all been in call center hell. And so I think you can see how this can start to change that dynamic on the phone. What I love is that they figured out how to turn off the interrogation light that I get at the call center and the inadequacy I ultimately feel because I don't know the answers to the questions about my own life, right? How does that make you feel, right? And so this turns all of that off, which I think is really transformational. So the first thing I want to do is say thank you to all of our partners for what they did today. So please join me in saying thank you to all of you. We stayed on time, which is awesome. So I just want to wrap up by saying, going back to what Aaron said at the beginning, which is one of the challenges is that digital identity is so big that it's kind of hard to get your head around it sometimes. So we try to provide several different use cases that break it down into a small manageable thing that we've all experienced in our lives. And this is kind of what this network that we're building together in Canada is all about. And our name came up a lot, which I'm embarrassed about. It's not about us. It's really about the organizations that are part of the network. It's the banks, it's the telcos, it's the governments standing behind you to make this happen. That's where the real power is from. We're helping connect the dots, but the power is the organizations that stand behind you. And these organizations that you saw on the stage that are going to help you transform your services. That's where the power is going to come from.